Good morning, kiddos. Hope you all have a great day today. And we are moving on to our next learning target. So our next learning target is I will learn how to graph radical equations. So you all have been graphing stuff since forever. Linear lines, I know you all know how to graph that. If I gave you a list of coordinate points, you could graph that. But this time we're going to be graphing radical equations. So that means an equation that has a square root, cubed root, something like that in it. And just seeing what it looks like on the coordinate plane. So this video is going to be a little bit different than our normal videos because we're going to be doing our assignment in Delta Math. So I just want to kind of do it in there and show you how it's done, as well as there's a lot of things I need to show you on how to do on separate websites. So just follow along in your notes. Be sure to write down your learning target for the day, write tips and tricks for yourself on how to do it, and kind of just really pay attention to my explanations. So let's go ahead and get started. So this first problem says, use technology to find points and then graph the function y equals the square root of x minus 2 following the instructions below. It tells us to plot at least 4 points with integer coordinates that fit on the axis below. So I think you all know that if you're given an equation up here, if we have no idea where to start, but we have an x and a y, one thing we can do is we can make an XY table. We did this back in the beginning of Algebra 2 when we were kind of doing some linear review with slope and stuff. So this should seem familiar. So for an XY table, you would plug in points. So for instance, let's go ahead and plug in 4 because we know 4 is a perfect square. The square root of 4, so that would give us y equals the square root of 4 minus 2. So that's going to give us 2 minus 2, which is going to give us 0. So 1 point is going to be 4, 0. But then let's try the next logical one we would try would be 5, because we're used to kind of going in order like 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. For that one, we would have the square root of 5 minus 2. But, we know that the square root of 5, if I type that in my calculator, it's going to give me some wonky decimal because the square root of 5 is not a perfect square. So that is not going to give me a integer coordinate. So a lot of this, if you did it this way, it's going to be a lot of trial and error as to what you are able to plot in your graph. So luckily, we have these tools in the classroom, and if you don't have one, if you're not in the classroom today when you're watching this, well, obviously you're not because you're watching this video. There are multiple resources you can use online if you don't already have a calculator at home. So, let's figure out how to use this up here. Perfect. So we want to plot. We need to find points on this graph. So if you Google a TI-84 calculator, what you can do is it'll take you to the Texas Instruments site, and it will give you instructions for a 30-day free trial on a calculator that looks just like this. Not 30-day, I don't know what I said that for. 90-day free trial to get a calculator that looks just like this. So this is what I'll be teaching my kids in the classroom to do today on the calculator. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you exactly how to do it on the calculator here. For if you have a calculator at home, you can follow along with these steps. If you don't have a calculator at home, that's going to be the next part of this video. So we want to use technology. So if we're starting at the home screen, we get to our home screen, we're going to want to go to the y equals button up here. So right here where it says y1, we're going to type in what we see here. So we have the square root of x. Then we want to be outside the radical minus 2. So this is our equation, and we're going to hit, I don't know why it says that, we're going to hit graph. Okay, when we hit graph, it gives us a little drawing of that graph essentially, and it shows us what it's supposed to look like. But just from this, it's going to be really hard to figure out exactly where those coordinate points are. So in your calculator, you can hit second and then table. And it's going to pull up this table right here with all the coordinate points. So at 3, if you were to graph this, you're at negative 2.679. We can't really graph that. And if we scroll up a little just to check our other ones, let's see. Let's start at -2. So you'll notice in here that it says error for -2, -1. Take a second. Why do you think that is? That is because, like we learned in our notes a few, like at least I know we took them in our very first learning target of this unit. You cannot take the square root of a negative number. Remember, if n is positive and your a is negative, you have 0 real roots. So this error right here means that we don't have a real root, because if we plug -2 in, we'd have the square root of -2, which we can't do. But if we scroll down here, if we plug in 0, we're going to have -2. So we'll go to 0, -2. Oop, I lost my calculator. There we go again. I'm going to have 1, -1. Well, this is annoying that it keeps doing that. Another whole integer one is I'm going to have 4, 0. And then lastly, I just need one more. Looks like my graph goes to 10. There we go. 9 and 1. So now that I have my 4 points, I'm going to hit done plotting points. And then, oops, this little blue dot's really going to bother me. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to my graph over here, and it shows that it kind of looks like this. So I'm going to want to do my best to replicate this image over here in Delta Math. So it gives me a little pencil, and then I'm just drawing to make sure that I go through all of these points I've identified. And then I'm pulling my line all the way over until this little arrow shows up. And then I'm going, and if I don't like what I drew, I can hit erase all drawings. So if I my mouse slipped or something, and I actually went up here, I can just hit erase all drawings and try again. And then I'm going to hit submit answer. Do you want to submit? Yes. All right, it tells us that we got it right. It shows you the table values from -10 to 10. And we can see that the 4 points we picked were the only 4 points that were between -10 and 10. If there's more, you can just pick 4. It doesn't matter which ones you pick, as long as they are on there. And then it tells us, just kind of reiterates the graph. And then down here, it shows you, in the dark blue right here, that's the line we drew. And then if you look really, really close, you can see that dotted blue line. That's the actual graph itself. So we were a little bit off. We were pretty close. So not too bad. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit square root, similar problem. Okay. So for this one, we're going to kind of do the same exact thing, but I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't have a calculator at home or you're unable to find this link. You can go to the website. It's called Desmos. DESMOS.com. It's free to use. You just you'll log in, you'll hit use the calculator, and it'll show up like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to graph the problem from Delta Math. So y equals, then we're going to have 2, the square root of x plus 1. So to get square root in here, you type SQRT. It turns into a square root, x plus 1. And we're going to double check and make sure we did that right. Yep, beautiful. And then you can use your little, the roller thing on the mouse to scroll in and out of your graph, or you can use these buttons up here. And once that's in there, it shows up in red. If you don't like red, you can even, you can change the color somehow. I thought I knew how, but obviously I don't. So once we have this graph in here, we're able to kind of zoom in and look for those coordinate points. Sorry, someone came in, so sorry, this is an awkward transition. Not real sure where I left off, but once we have this graph, we're gonna be using it to look for those whole integer coordinate points by hand. So obviously you all know that if it meets directly on one of these corners right here, it's going to be a point that is a whole integer. So if we zoom in, right here, that's a bad example, right here, that goes through the line, so it's going to be a fraction. We're not looking for that. So if we hover over here, we can see this point is 0, 2, and it's on the line. So we'll go back to Delta Math, and we want 0, 2. Hop back over to Desmos. We check this one. It's -1, 0. So that's good. Where's my Delta Math tab? -1, 0. Perfect. Hop back into here. We're scrolling, we're looking. That one is close, but not close enough. Right here is one. Looks like we got, boop, boop, Sometimes it takes a hot second to get it to click right. but we have 8, 6. 8, 6, and remember, you don't want to go too big because our graph only goes to 10. So we zoom in here. Nope, that's not close enough. We already did that one. Here we go. Oh, maybe not. See how close that one looks, but it's not. So it is super duper handy if you do have one of these calculators at home. But if you don't, no worries, we will get through it. Looks like we got 3, 4 right there. Perfect. So 3, 4. Now we have our 4 points. So I'm going to go back to my graph. I'm going to kind of zoom out just so I can get an idea of what it looks like. I'm going to hop into Delta Math. I'm going to hit done plotting points. And then I know my graph goes this way. So I'm going to use my tool and I'm going to graph it. Being sure to go, oopsie, I kind of missed that point right there. So I'm going to start over. I'm going to erase all my drawings. And that's close enough. We're going to submit our answer. We're going to hope it takes it. Yes, it does. So for this one, you can see that my line was not straight or not curved correctly because my blue line differs from this dotted line, but it did go through all the right points, so Delta Math counted it. But that's really the long and the short of it. We're really just taking advantage of using technology, and we also want to keep in mind the idea of domain and range when we're doing this. So for instance, all of these graphs that we're going to be graphing, they don't go down here into this quadrant to be negative because, again, you can't take the square root of the negative number. So let's show you another problem, a similar problem. Show solution. See how they all kind of have this same little shape? That's a characteristic of square root functions. They're all kind of going to go up and then they're going to fall off to the side. So like that comes up a lot on the ACT and stuff. Anything that kind of goes like this, that's the shape of a square root function. And similar problem, they're all going to have this shape and they're all going to be above the x-axis when you're graphing them because you can't take the square root of a negative number. Your range and domain are always going to be bigger than 0. So today's notes were a little bit weird, but hopefully you understand the how to graph it, as well as the general shape of what a square root function is supposed to look like, as well as learned a little bit of calculator tools, because even if you're doing stuff on the ACT or a CERT or anything like that, you can use that second table function, and that'll help you get a better idea of the details of the graph you're looking at. But as always, bring any questions you have with you to class, shoot me an email, be sure you're taking notes, practicing, all that jazz, and I'll see you all when I see you. Bye, have a great day.